Good evening and welcome in to Fantasy Football Night in America. This is the FFPC Insider Access Show live on the Better Sports Network. My name is Eric Balkman, at Eric Balkman on the X. You can connect with me there. You also know me from the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, of course, the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown as well. Coming to you live, and I know it's calm in here right now, but we are live at the FFPC Watch Party at the Horseshoe Convention Center here in Las Vegas. There's going to be hundreds of screaming mad fantasy men in here and women in the next hour and a half. So we're going to get as much as we can done here, and then you'll be able to enjoy the madness tonight on the show. Bringing a level of professionalism, a level of respect to the program tonight is the two-time IDP Fantasy Pros Accuracy winner. He is the co-host of the award-winning Draft Sharks Fantasy Football podcast. Of course, a former FFPC main event champion, and according to his daughter, sings a hell of a falsetto voice. Please welcome in at Schauf DS, Mr. Matt Schauf. Matt, welcome in.
No lies detected. And if I'm supposed to class up the show, I should let you know that I haven't showered yet today. So,
well, listen, that's still a step up from if you haven't showered today. It's been weeks for me. No, but I'm so glad that we're doing the show with you tonight, Matt. I also want to bring up to at the top of the show. Normally we promote the FFPC contest or whatever, and we will, trust me. But as of like 2 minutes ago, right before we went on, the FFPC main event reached capacity. It is sold out for the year, so we will not be promoting that. Thank you so much to companies like Draft Sharks, partners like Draft Sharks that help promote that contest, that it is now full. First time in probably about 4 or 5 years we filled that up. So that's really, really cool. FFPC Big Gorilla Draft still going on right now. We have probably about 500-600 teams would be my guess. Left in that competition. $350 to enter, $1 million grand prize. You're going to get a $50 discount off every third team you purchase there as well. And don't forget about the 7 Bananas promo. If you keep getting that 7th pick multiple times in a row, we're going to keep giving you free teams. We've given away nearly 90 free FFPC Best Ball Tournament teams. We've given away 8 free FFPC main event teams. Nobody's hit the $10,000 High Society buy-in. Nobody's hit the free Jungle Safari for 4 yet, but we still got a few days before the season starts. MYFFPC.com is where to go for that. MYFFPC.com. Don't forget Dynasty Startup still going. We don't have slow Dynasty Startups, but if you want to do a live, either Empire Dynasty Startup or live Dynasty Startup, MyFFPC.com is where to go for that. So check that out. MYFFPC.com. Shout out to Matt Deutsch, our producer tonight. Let's lead things off with your Eagles taking on the Cowboys tonight, Matt. I know you're super pumped for that. We will have Dustin Royer from Dynasty Rewind to take over the second hour of the show tonight, so you can enjoy what should be a thrashing tonight. I don't know how you feel about the game. We'll definitely get some thoughts on that. But we do know one participant, one player that will not have a hand in tonight's game. Dallas Cowboys rookie running back Jaydon Blue, listed as inactive about 10-15 minutes or so ago. He is not playing. I'm going to look up the ADP on him in a second here, Matt. But for those people who are still drafting later tonight, drafting Friday, drafting Saturday, does this put a damper on Jaydon Blue, knowing that he's inactive already for this first game behind guys like Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams? Or did you kind of expect this? Like, what's your feeling on Blue for those people who haven't drafted yet? How do you handle him?
I mean, I didn't have any strong feeling on him to begin with anyway. It was nobody that I was excited about. There's no member of this Dallas backfield that I'm excited about. So it's definitely a negative for him if your competition is Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders and the team's like, I think we're all right without you this week. It's a bad thing because he wasn't on the injury report. It'd be different if he was coming in with an injury and they were like, why don't you take it easy this week and we'll see how it goes. But no spot on the injury report. It seems like he's just not ready. I don't know that it makes him undraftable if you haven't drafted yet, because it's not a good backfield. They could get into tonight's game and realize that the guys that they are going with aren't that good and be like, all right, so we're going to actually bring you in for week 2, and then you're going to be important after that. So I think it will push Jaydon Blue down boards. Maybe it will make him slightly more interesting. This Dallas backfield's one that I want to avoid as much as possible, though. I think it's going to do nothing but frustrate all season.
This could be a little fun would you rather then, Matt. He's going right now, according to FantasyMojo.com. That's Darren Armani's website. Jaydon Blue, 10.07 over the last 2 days in the FFPC Big Gorilla. Would you rather draft Jaydon Blue or would you rather draft Quinshon Judkins going right behind him?
Quinshon Judkins very easily.
Jaydon Blue or Nick Chubb?
Neither. I'm drafting somebody else.
Jaydon Blue or Dylan Sampson?
I mean, I'm probably not the Sampson drafter either, but I guess I would take Sampson over Jaydon Blue.
Jaydon Blue or Tank Bigsby?
Tank Bigsby for sure.
And the last one, Jaydon Blue or Ramondre Stevenson?
Ramondre Stevenson.
I noticed Quinshon Judkins moving up a little bit in the drafts I've seen over the last couple of days. And obviously, I worked some of the live events here already today, and I noticed him moving up a little bit. Is there any reason for that, Matt? Is this just people wish casting at this point, thinking that Judkins is going to be back? Because to my knowledge, has not signed a contract, doesn't seem particularly close on that, and with everything going on off the field, I don't think Cleveland is super eager to bring him in right away, especially when you consider they already have Jerome Ford and they already have Dylan Sampson, as we just talked about. You think there's any reason to be more positive about Judkins now than was a week, maybe 2 weeks ago?
I think the big difference that has some people more positive right now is there was one Mary Kay Cabot report, and I don't even know if it was a report or if it was a guess by her, but she said Judkins could be under contract and back with the team as soon as week 1. That was within the past week and a half. So she's been a Browns reporter forever. So when she says something like that, it carries some weight. Now, I don't think any of us is expecting Judkins to have a role in week 1. And we'll see. Like you said, he's not even under contract yet, so we don't know what it's going to look like. But if he signed tomorrow, if he signed Saturday, if he signs the day after week 1, the upside we all know is already there. He would be like a round 4 or 5 pick right now if there had been no summer issue, if he had a full training camp, if he went through the preseason, if he was hitting week 1 as the lead running back in Cleveland. He should be like at least near the territory where Omari and Hampton is. I don't know if he would have gotten there because he was trailing Omari and Hampton back before there were off-field issues, but that for me is why he's interesting. I was actually eyeing him in my main event draft earlier this week. I was looking at him for round 10. He ended up going around the 9-10 turn. I think that's a fair range because yeah, there's some risk that he never plays this year, but the charges got dropped. So there's probably not going to be further legal trouble. If there's a league suspension this year, I mean, we see how slow the NFL is with that stuff. Rashee Rice just got suspended for last offseason's infraction. It can't be more than 6 games because we saw Rashee Rice actually, get in trouble with the law and face a 6-game suspension where the charges already got dropped for Judkins. So I just think ultimately the upside is worth where you're drafting him at this point.
I think we also have to talk about in regards to running backs going higher than Quinshon Judkins. Kyren Williams, Mike LaFleur said this past Wednesday that he wants to divvy up the work a little bit more between Kyren Williams and Blake Corum this year. Quote, "It benefits everyone to make sure that you're not just wearing someone down or overusing somebody." This is the OC, Mike LaFleur, for the Rams. The plan is to split. I'm quoting him again. The plan is to split those up a little bit and distribute, whether it's the run or on the pass game or making sure people are involved within the scheme. Okay. So I can't remember who said this, Matt. It might have been Pat Kyren. And I'm the king of like attributing stuff to people that they didn't actually say. So it may not have been Pat Kyren. But whoever it was said that doesn't matter what Sean McVay, Mike LaFleur, doesn't matter what any of these guys say. Kyle Shanahan, he said this about too. These guys just can't help but overuse one running back. They trust Kyren Williams. They trust Christian McCaffrey. If they're healthy, they're going to play as much snaps as possible. Knowing that and knowing what we've seen in the past, how much credence do you put in this report about Kyren Williams ceding more touches to Blake Corum? Do you think this is real? And if so, how far would you bump Kyren Williams down? Or do you think that this is something that the coaches just say, and then once the games start going on, we see something completely different? And by completely different, I mean the same thing we've always seen with one of these guys getting heavy use.
Let me start by saying it should be real, and I'll then follow that by saying I'm not worried about it. So it should be real because 2 years ago, Kyren Williams led all running backs in opportunity share. He missed a few games, so it doesn't show in the raw numbers, but he was even ahead of Christian McCaffrey in team opportunity share that season. Last year, he ranked 4th in the league. He and Saquon Barkley are the only 2 running backs that ranked among the top 4 in that category each of the past 2 years. Then ahead of this season, the Rams gave him an extension that pays $11 million a year. So, yeah, I think they'll give some more work to Blake Corum and maybe Jarquez Hunter, although I don't think he's really going to be a factor, as we've seen with young day 3 running backs in LA so far. But I think they'll give more work because they didn't give anything basically to Corum last year. They would like to keep Kyren Williams a little fresher. And frankly, he'd probably be a little bit more efficient on the ground if he ceded a bit of work to a teammate. That said, he was top 4 in opportunity share each of the past 2 years. So he can lose some of that work and still be top 8. So I'm not worried. It's only letting us draft Kyren Williams a little bit later than we normally would for a guy that's scored the way he has the past 2 years.
Looking at his ADP right now, over the last 2 days in the FFPC Big Gorilla competition, running back 12, Matt, he is going at the 303. This is after Jacobs and Irving, basically right at the same spot as Omari and Hampton. And then ahead of guys like TreVeyon Henderson, who's really, you know what? It's not on the rundown. I have to ask you about TreVeyon Henderson because I noticed this 2 weeks ago, picking up a lot of steam right now. I've seen him go as early as the late second round for people who are definitely trying to win $1 million at the FFPC. Could be a pick to win guy. You, I think, are a little bit more measured in your analysis. You've never been the type of person, analyst, who ever gets caught up in the hype. Does this mean that Henderson is sort of, I don't want to say off your board, but a guy that you're not willing to reach at this point to the late second, early third round, even mid third round to grab him?
Yeah, I can't chase round 3 TreVeyon Henderson. He's not going to be a workhorse in that backfield. Maybe he ends up leading in both carries and targets. Maybe he does end up, scoring well ahead of Ramondre Stevenson, but we're still going to get a limited offense there in New England. Should be better than last year, but it's not like we're going to get Detroit's offense from last season. And I bring up Detroit because if TreVeyon Henderson could get a Jahmyr Gibbs workload and perform like Jahmyr Gibbs, he would still need his offense to perform and score touchdowns like last year's Lions did to then become a guy that's going to make the difference for our season. So I'd rather just, risk that I'm missing out on something truly special than bet on something truly special, because usually when you bet on something like that, it doesn't come to fruition.
How do I know? We are a little over an hour away from the start of the NFL season. We have our first start or sit question hanging out in YouTube tonight. It is Glock Lesnar who wants to know Tyrone Tracy or David Montgomery for his second running back slot, and then Marvin Harrison or Jalen Waddle as his flex. This is full PPR. Let's handle this one first. Are you rolling with Tyrone Tracy this week or David Montgomery? Montgomery obviously is going to Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Football Packers. Tyrone Tracy is at Washington in our nation's capital. Who would you be going with there? I lean towards Montgomery here, Matt.
I would actually lean toward Tracy for the full PPR factor because I worry about a couple things with David Montgomery. I worry about, first of all, his role. Not only did we see the Jahmyr Gibbs explosion at the end of last season, granted with Montgomery off the field, but we then got an OC switch. So we don't know what the new OC is going to do between the running backs. We don't know what last year's performance from Gibbs is going to do for that work share. And then we don't know about this offense. It's not going to be as good as last year because it was dramatically ahead of the league in scoring last year. It scored at a higher rate than teams do. Like every team that scores the way that the Lions did last year regresses the following year. So they can be really good and still not be as good as last year. So I also wonder if this team is going to go into Green Bay and actually win. I mean, if they're then trailing, that's only going to hurt the game script further for David Montgomery. So there are, several different ways where it could go negatively for Montgomery. On the other hand, Tyrone Tracy is going to lead the Giants backfield. He's going to do that if they are winning against Washington. He's going to do that if they are losing to Washington. I think, it's the first game, so we're all guessing, but Cam Scadaboo basically missed nearly all of the summer. So I think we get a lead back versus a split backfield back, and I would lean toward the Giant here.
The Packers, I believe, are a 2.5-point favorite. Not that I put a ton of stock into that, but you could certainly tell yourself a story where Tracy is going to get a significant more amount of high-value touches than David Montgomery would against the Packers, too, especially if the Packers end up getting out to a lead and the Lions are forced to use more Jahmyr Gibbs. The second part of that, Marvin Harrison or Jalen Waddle, Matt. Marvin Harrison at New Orleans this week, and then Jalen Waddle is in Indianapolis. For this one, I'm going with Harrison. I just get yucky vibes from the Miami offense in general. I think Waddle's startable this week. If my other option's Harrison, I'm going to go with him.
I love Jalen Waddle this season. I think there's potential for him to have a really breakthrough year, and I think at the least he's going to have a good season as long as the quarterback play is okay. That said, if I drafted Marvin Harrison, I got to start him this week. You definitely drafted him probably several rounds before Jalen Waddle. The matchup is good. The team should be motivated to, treat him like a lead receiver after drafting him very early in the draft last year. So I think you have to go with Marvin Harrison in this case. And then once we see what both these offenses and both these players have, then we can, go forward with that decision week to week.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a good problem to have with Harrison and Waddle on your team for flex, for sure. Donald Ducate on YouTube wants to know Devonta Smith tonight against the Dallas Cowboys or Courtland Sutton. And Sutton, I have to remember this one. Denver is taking on the Tennessee Titans at home. So they get the Titans there. This is close for me. I don't know. I mean, the fact that A.J. Brown is not on the injury report, that he's playing tonight, I think I'd rather have Sutton. I think he's going to see more targets than Devonta Smith, but it's close. If I have to, I mean, I wish I could start both of them, obviously. But I would probably lean towards Sutton on this one. Is that the way you see it as well, Matt?
Yeah, I'd have to lean Sutton as the number one receiver for Denver over Philly's number two receiver in a game where they're favored by, I don't even know what the line is right now, 7.5, 8, something like that. So a game that we
8.5 now.
So we expect Philly to control. That should limit the passing volume. So I'd have to go Sutton. It's never comfy to sit Devonta Smith. It's never comfy to start Devonta Smith because of the volume, because he's so talented. He can be efficient, but I would go Sutton.
So let's get back to it here on the next item on the sheet, Isiah Pacheco. Now, a lot of the stuff I put on the rundown for you tonight, Matt, I got from the Shark Bite section of DraftSharks.com, a wonderful website, an award-winning website, and you guys have been doing it for years. You, Jared, Alex, Kevin, everybody. Does Lenny do anything, or does he just kind of delegate everything now?
He just watches us and waits for us to bring more grapes.
Well, listen, we all want that life someday.
That's right. He earned it.
Lenny Papano definitely earned it. Okay, Isiah Pacheco. This is back from May, but I want to bring it up. That he apparently looks tremendous. It sounds like it's a Donald Trump quote, right? That he looks tremendous right now.
Many people are saying,
yeah, this is what people are saying. Blah 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 blah. So, but in regards to Pacheco, this is from Andy Reid. He apparently put on some good weight, and it probably won't be the worst thing in the world for Pacheco to put on some good weight, given the way that he plays football. It's sort of like Puka Nacua, where it's just all that matters is yards and touchdowns and scoring. His protecting his body does not matter, which is good and bad. Pacheco right now, and I'll bring up the ADP on him because I think this is an interesting guy when you think about the Kansas City offense. And how potent it could be this year to get the starting running back in that backfield would certainly be great. Running back 24 at the 605 after DeAndre Swift, kind of on their own tier right there. And then you get Aaron Jones, you get David Montgomery about a round later. But when you think about Pacheco at running back 24, is that a good investment in the FFPC, Matt, in the mid-6th round to be getting into business with Isiah Pacheco?
Yes, it absolutely is. I've been big on Pacheco all this offseason. I'm a little sad that he has climbed to where he is because he was even easier to draft before that. But, a couple of years ago, he finished 2023 as a top 15 fantasy running back across formats. Last year, he came back from the broken leg, was clearly not himself over the second half. Andy Reid said as much. And if we had followed that season by the Chiefs picking up, some other real viable options, then I might be worried about him, but we didn't. They brought back Kareem Hunt on a tiny deal. They signed Elijah Mitchell on a tiny deal. They waited until round 7 to draft Brashard Smith. So clearly that to me is the Chiefs saying, yeah, Isiah Pacheco is going to be healthy this season. We love him when he's healthy. He's going to lead the backfield. We'll make sure we got some insurance, but this is our guy.
Anytime you're drafting for $1 million like you are in the big FFPC Big Gorilla tournament, which you still can at myffpc.com, you're looking for those big home run hitters. You're looking for these players that could be league winners. And there is a polarizing player right now, Matt, going in the, I want to say like mostly 8th round.
7.
And he was 7 before. He slipped a little bit. I noticed that today. I was just doing a $10,000 buy-in High Society FFPC where I was facilitating
Humble
that.
brag.
And well, I'm not in it. I was just facilitating it. And I want to say that he went, I think, in the early 9th in that one. So he is slipping a little bit. According to Mojo right now, he is going at the 804. He's running back 30. In the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship a couple of weeks ago, I invested in him in the 8th round in a couple of drafts. It was kind of a FOMO thing. I want to make sure I do have some shares of Croskey-Merritt here. Is he getting too hyped? Is the 8th round too high right now? Yes. If Matt Schauf was drafting, where would you be comfortable taking Croskey-Merritt and why?
I'm not taking him until the double-digit rounds because I don't know anything about him, honestly. And, I say that relatively speaking, but none of us really knows anything about him. He barely played football last year. He had one game. I don't even remember the touch count, but barely touched the ball because of eligibility issues at Arizona. Had one really good year right before that. And then preceding that, he had some very meh years at Alabama State. Now he's an athlete, obviously generated buzz all summer in Washington. He's clearly the biggest change in that backfield that preceded the team trading away Brian Robinson Jr. So, we'll see how much of Bill Croskey-Merritt was part of Washington feeling comfortable and making that trade. But he clearly was the, biggest X factor between last year and this year that preceded that trade. I think that this is going to be more of a committee than his rising tide makes it seem. Chris Rodriguez has improved his speed reportedly. Austin Eckler is still, a steady presence. And their running backs coach is Anthony Lynn, who has been with, not constantly been with Austin Eckler, but dates back to his rookie year with the Chargers with Austin Eckler. So obviously feels good about him, trusts him. They talk about Jeremy McNichols still being involved. He's at least a special teams guy, which increases the chances that he's going to be active on game days. I think that the draft market is a little bit too sure on old Bill right now. And I also think that even if I'm wrong and he does emerge as the lead back, I don't think that we're sitting on something special. I think he'll be helpful as opposed to season changing.
You mentioned earlier when we were talking about Jaydon Blue being inactive tonight that you didn't want any piece of that Cowboys backfield. Is there a piece of this Washington backfield at cost that you could see yourself investing in? We know it's not Croskey-Merritt, but could Austin Eckler be that guy? Could Chris Rodriguez be that guy? Because they don't have necessarily the draft capital and the opportunity cost that it will cost you to get in business with JCM. Is there a Commanders running back you like?
There's nobody that I'm chasing, but I'm fine with taking Austin Eckler. I'm fine with Chris Rodriguez. My issue with Rodriguez is similar to one that I didn't even mention with Croskey-Merritt, is the lack of receiving. Neither of them has shown that they're going to catch the ball that much. That's going to be pretty critical to giving us big PPR scores. Austin Eckler obviously has that. Last year, he did not look like old Austin Eckler. He looked more like old Austin Eckler. So if there's something different about him this year that makes him more efficient or even just keeps him on the field longer, he has a chance to be helpful. Really, I think if you're buying any Washington running back, you're more trying to buy into the offense than you're buying that specific player. Because I don't think any of these guys on their own is a fantasy stud for 2025.
Matt, you and I are roughly the same age, I think. When I got a computer, for the first time in the mid to late 90s, there was 2 games on there. There was Solitaire and there was Minesweeper. Do you remember Minesweeper?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. If I had to pick an NFL player to be the best Minesweeper, in history, the person I would choose, like if my life depended on it, be DeAndre Swift, because this guy avoided the coaching change with Ben Johnson, where there's that narrative out there that he didn't like Swift. He avoided free agency, where the Bears didn't go out and get a big name running back to replace him. And then he avoided the draft, basically. I mean, he got a little bit of a flesh wound with Kyle Monangai in the 7th round, but basically he survived, and he's the guy. Roschon Johnson did not practice today. I think Kyle Monangai is dealing with something right now, too. I always hesitate to invest in players who I like because of happenstance, because of opportunity. Like I like investing in players with talent. But this is tough to ignore. The Minesweeper DeAndre Swift, man, you look at where he's going, and I'll bring it up right now. I just had it up actually with the FFPC Big Gorilla ADP. Running back 23, so right ahead of Pacheco. Let's say somebody snags Pacheco in front of you because I know you like him. How hard are you looking at DeAndre Swift in the early to mid 6th round?
He's one that I've had to talk myself into lately for the reasons that you said. It's kind of the opportunity is clear. I don't love the player, and I think we've got enough evidence to say that DeAndre Swift isn't as good as his physical ability just at playing running back. But if that offense is good and if nobody else emerges, he's certainly going to get the ball plenty. I think my ideal scenario, and this would be outside of the tournament setup where we can trade, my ideal scenario would be to have DeAndre Swift early in the season, get some big games, and then look to trade him because he's not a player that I trust over the long term. But the opportunity is certainly there, not somebody that I would feel like I have to unload.
I think that it could be one of these things where I look back on, I wish that I would have had more DeAndre Swift this season, depending upon how it goes. That Bears offense in general, Matt, I wouldn't say I was super into it back when Johnson took over, but I definitely was buying into it then. I've slowed down on a little bit because I do think that there could be some growing pains with this offense, with Caleb Williams, Odunze, and Moore, and all these guys. They all have talent. Didn't necessarily see the chemistry last year, and now you have a new offense this year. Granted, the head coach is a brilliant offensive mind, but I almost wonder, like, if you draft Bears this year, you're going to be disappointed in September and maybe even October. It might take a little bit for this offense to get going and return on that draft capital. How do you see the Bears offense? How have you been handling them in drafts?
It's been changing throughout the offseason because, like you said, most people, the market, got excited about the Bears just because Ben Johnson arrived. And I like to look for overreactions like that. I mean, obviously, Ben Johnson in for Matt Eberflus is a positive, but we've never seen him be a head coach. We've never seen him with this team. We don't know if it's going to happen right away. We don't know if Caleb Williams is actually good at football or just a good athlete who shows enough flashes. So I was hesitant then. As the prices have come down, I'm more interested. The one guy that I've always been the most interested in is DJ Moore, because when we're looking at the offense that has all these questions and we're saying, I don't know what's going to happen, then if you can find within that one guy who has done nothing but prove himself production-wise across multiple teams with worse quarterbacks than he ostensibly has this season, assuming Caleb Williams is better than he was as a rookie, why would DJ Moore not work out this year? We can get that guy in low wide receiver 2 range. I'm in. I'm buying DJ Moore pretty easily.
You know what's funny is he's the one guy of the Bears that I want to say I faded. I just liked other players better than him there this year. I don't think I grabbed Odunze in a lot of drafts. Luther Burden, I think because he was cheapest, I ended up grabbing him as like a number 5 receiver, sometimes number 6 receiver in certain drafts, knowing that it's going to be a little bit, if it pans out at all in 2025, I probably wouldn't see any return on that Burden thing until late October, November. But I'm good with that. We'll see on the upside. You make a pretty strong case with DJ Moore as well. Another player that had been going right around the same spot as DJ Moore, but not anymore after his suspension, Rashee Rice. He has obviously taken a tumble in drafts now that we know the suspension is going to happen. However, the silver lining, he's going to start serving it at the start of the season, so we don't have to worry about him missing, the FFPC league playoffs, and then obviously the championship round and the main event, the big gorilla. So that's actually good about Rice. In regards to where you are comfortable taking him, knowing how good he was, granted in his limited time in Kansas City so far, but knowing sort of what he could do for you in fantasy, but also knowing that Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce are going to get more of a jump on him as far as actual game time. What's the proper way to handle Rashee Rice? And before you answer that, Matt, I'll just tell you right now, over the last 2 days in the FFPC Big Gorilla, he is going as wide receiver 35. He has fallen out of the 6th round. He is now an early 7th round pick.
Yeah, he went mid-6 in my main event draft just the other night. I mean, I guess that's a fair range. My honest answer is there's no time where I'm comfortable taking Rashee Rice because, like I said, being out for 6 weeks, he could come back and find an offense that's going pretty well without him. And they're like, well, we'll certainly work you back in, but maybe that keeps him from having the ceiling that he would have had he started the season on time. The way that I would draft him is if I already have, 3 wide receivers and I'm like, all right, I don't need this guy to hit. I certainly don't need this guy right away, but I'll stash him on my bench, use him for later. I'm probably not the one who's taking him in a large field tournament like the FFPC tournaments because there are so many things that I need to go right within my team to win this whole thing that just inviting this potential bomb into it makes that even more difficult, this pursuit that was already difficult to begin with. So I'm probably not taking him there, but I think it's fair anywhere in that, wide receiver 40 to 48, I think would probably be the range where I'm saying that's fine.
Yeah, and be ready to pounce, right? Because, I mean, there are people who got him later than this already, so you have to keep that in mind. But if he does fall further, then, you sort of have to let the draft come to you, and this could be a big time value depending upon where you get him. Hayes 155 is hanging out watching us on Twitch before the Cowboys and Eagles tonight. He wants to know if he is cooked. I shouldn't say he, it could be a she. I have no idea. They, as a catch-all, have to start either Justin Herbert on Friday or Jordan Love on Sunday. Herbert's in Brazil against the Chiefs, Love at Lambeau against the Lions. You're never cooked, because if these are your two quarterback choices, I'm going to say your running backs, your receivers, maybe even your tight end are pretty good. I think these are okay matchups. The thing is with Love, and Matt, I'll get your read in on this. I do think there's not only going to be regression to the mean coming, positive regression to the mean coming for Love, just because of his down year last year. He hurt that knee really bad, and then he had a groin issue after that later. I just don't think he was ever right. And then Matt LaFleur, similar to how when Jaydon Reid got that shoulder injury last year, just kind of took the ball out of Reid's hands. And as he also took the ball out of Love's hands, and he let Josh Jacobs and the rest of that offensive line do their work as a power ground game. I don't think that's going to be necessarily the case this year. I think they're going to open it up a little bit more, especially with the addition of Matthew Golden. You got Savion Williams there as well. I'm pretty bullish on Love. You're not cooked. I would play Love over Herbert this week. But I understand that, the inkling of like, hey, this isn't the greatest way to start off my season from the quarterback position. But you're not cooked.
Yeah, definitely not cooked. Those guys are actually right next to each other in our week 1 rankings. Justin Herbert's 1 spot ahead. I'm high on Jordan Love for the year. I think I would probably go with Herbert in my own lineup, especially because you have to make that decision Friday, and we still have some wide receiver questions for the Packers leading up to their game. Jaydon Reid seems like he's probably not going to play in that game, and honestly, he's a guy that I'm worried about in general for the season if he's going to play through a Jones fracture in his foot. So I would lean slightly toward Herbert, but it's honestly really a coin flip between those guys.
Yeah, you mentioned Reid too. That was a guy that I was drafting much earlier in the season, and I've been off him for a month plus now. It stunk because I was very excited that he, the shoulder took a long time to recover from, but he got healthy from that. And then all of a sudden this Jones fracture, and he's playing through that on that Packers offense that spreads the ball around normally. There's no reason to invest heavily in him, and he's been falling quite a bit as well. We're going to talk about your FFPC main event team in just a minute or two here. Before we get to that, we also got some more news yesterday. Jauan Jennings is now going to have some more money coming his way in the form of incentives, and he's practicing, which is good. But maybe not good if you heavily invested into Ricky Pearsall, right? Your read on this situation as we enter the final weekend of drafting here in Las Vegas for the FFPC. How do you handle Pearsall? How do you handle Jennings now? Are you moving Jennings up the board?
This is a funny one, and I actually wrote the shark bite on that one, so people can get my full thoughts in there. But it's odd because you hear that they're giving him more money, but when you look at the details, it's $3 million more in playtime incentives. So if he plays a certain amount of snaps this year, then they boost his $7.5 million for this year to $10.5 million potentially. Which obviously it's a lot more money than I'm going to make in any single year, probably at any point, but it's not huge money for a wide receiver. It's right around that higher amount would be right around the same as what Bien-Aime Brown is getting from Jacksonville this year, for example. Now, they reportedly offered him a multi-year deal that he turned down. We don't know the details on that one, but the fact that he turned it down tells me that it's not an impressive amount of money to a guy that's about to turn 29, who hasn't done a whole lot in the league before last season, just thinks that he can do better on the open market after this season. I think ultimately the contract is not going to matter a whole lot because all we needed was for Jennings to get back on the field. The Niners need him this season. They have Ricky Pearsall, and they've otherwise been signing every single street free agent at the position in the past week. They've got Marquez Valdez-Scantling in town now. That's how desperate they are. They're like, oh, you weren't good enough for the Seahawks? Come on down here. You can play with us for a little bit while some of our real wide receivers get healthy. So I think that there's room for both Jennings and Pearsall. I don't think it's necessarily negative. I think we always assumed that Jennings would get back on the field, that this would get resolved somehow. I still like Pearsall. I think if you haven't drafted yet and Jennings coming back knocks Pearsall down the board, take advantage of that, because I still think that Pearsall's the better prospect between them and the better bet for production this year. Jennings is going late enough where I'm fine with him. I've never been high on him, but anywhere in that like mid to bottom wide receiver 4 range, totally fine.
You mentioned it. You touched on it as well. The pedigree definitely lies on the side of Ricky Pearsall over Jauan Jennings here. And also comforting for Pearsall owners that he's coming off an off season where he didn't get shot. So hopefully that makes it a little bit easier for him to get in the flow of it early on in the game, early on in the season this year. Couple of quick hitters, wide receiver wise, Matt, before we talk about your main event team that you just drafted. Marvin Mims seems to be, Cortland Sutton said that he's the number 2 receiver on that team. And this is an up and coming offense, obviously, where there's a lot of people bullish on Denver. He's an 11th round pick. Keenan Allen, Jane Reid, Luther Burden in that area as well. I always kind of viewed Mims as like this big play, hashtag better in best ball type guy. Is that wrong? Is that different this year? Do you see Mims, his role in that offense and how we play it in fantasy, do you view it as different in 2025 than it was last year?
I think it's potentially different. I'm not ready to say it's going to be totally different, but I was off him for nearly all of draft season because the way that Denver used Marvin Mims last year made me think, oh, they just don't want him to be a full-time player. That's fine. That's how they decide to deploy him in their offense, but I need him to be a full-time player to make sense for me in fantasy. So if that's not what they're going to do, I'm not interested. Then they finished the preseason with him playing full-time. And there have been some who are like, guys, that's just one preseason game. Don't overrate it. It's going to differ week to week. Yeah, I get that. We're not going to get 90% route participation from Marvin Mims every single week. But if we get it some weeks, then he's going to be startable at times, especially if there's an injury to somebody else in the wide receiver core. And if he just proves that the team's better when he's on the field than when he's not, he can get more games like that. So if we're getting more playing time from Marvin Mims and he's still going low wide receiver 5 to wide receiver 6 range, I'm interested now.
The last wide receiver I want to bring up, Alec Iamaner. I've been pretty excited to draft Calvin Ridley as my number 3, sometimes my number 4 receiver in drafts this year. I think he's in for a big year. I think he's going to get targeted a lot. He's got a really talented quarterback throwing to him. And he also plays on a team that is going to have a lot of negative game scripts, which means a lot of targets, a lot of passes going Calvin Ridley's way. However, as we know, because we watch professional football, every single target can't go to Calvin Ridley. Cam Ward is going to have to throw it to other people. When you think about some of the other pass catchers in this offense, you have the Pollard Spears backfield, you have Chiga Conquo at tight end. What about Alec Iamaner, the rookie out of Stanford here, a guy that has been getting a lot of positive pub, and it's being reflected in FFPC drafts where he's slowly climbing up a little bit, not to a untenable level. I think you can still take him where he's going. But your thoughts on Alec Iamaner this year? It seems like he might already have a pretty big role to start the season, and things could only go up from there, especially if Cam Ward's launching the football, 35, maybe sometimes 40 times a game.
He is one of my 4 most drafted players through best ball season, Alec Iamaner, because he's going so late and because of the scenario that you just laid out. If you like Calvin Ridley, then you should like Alec Iamaner because it's the same situation. Obviously, if they're both on the field, then they're going to be battling some for targets, but the reason that we like Calvin Ridley is because he's good at football and he's in a situation where there aren't a whole lot of other target challenges. So he's going to get the ball plenty. Alec Iamaner is good at football. We liked him as a prospect. We were a little surprised that he lasted until round 4, but definitely liked him as a prospect. We're waiting for this kind of buzz that, oh, he's already impressing them, already getting on the field. His competition was Van Jefferson, the ghost of Tyler Lockett. So it looks like Iamaner is going to be a starter at least early in the season. I'm not saying we're going to use him in fantasy lineups early, and maybe he doesn't actually give us much, lineup setting value throughout the year, but this is a good player in a situation where they need wide receivers. I'm drafting him late, and I'm very interested to see how quickly and how well he does for us.
Iamaner as a number 6 or 7 receiver, I'm definitely on board with. Have been doing that much of the last couple of weeks in drafts as well. Speaking of drafts, was this Tuesday night, Matt, that you did an FFPC main event? Tuesday night?
Yeah, okay. Tuesday at 10 p.m.
Tuesday, 10 p.m. FFPC main event draft. You had the 4 spot, and I kind of want to break this down. Now, as I said at the top of the show, the main event for the FFPC sold out this year. You can't enter that, but you could apply the same logic that Matt did to his main event to any big gorilla drafts that you want to do, as we still have hundreds of those teams left. And we'll probably have those not only through tonight, but tomorrow as well. You had the 104, and you have reflected something I've been seeing more and more in drafts, that Christian McCaffrey is no longer a late first-round pick. He's been climbing up to a mid and sometimes even early first-round pick at the 104. I think Ben Gretsch said this, and I think I'm attributed to this, and I think you have said stuff like this in the Draft Sharks podcast, not only this year but in previous years, about McCaffrey and about some other players that have dealt with injuries. You got to stop thinking about, what happens if this guy gets hurt. You have to start thinking about what happens to my team if he doesn't get hurt. And if McCaffrey does stay healthy this year at the 104, mother of God, the sky's the limit. The fact that a player of his age and of his injury history, that he's still going this high, is a reflection on what an absolute fantasy destroyer he can be when he's right. And you are betting on him being right this year, and that's why you took him at the 104. Could be a huge boon for you in this format. Can you tell us about the thought process with your first round pick? How close was McCaffrey to being not your pick there, or was this a open and shut case? If he was there, you're taking him.
Yeah, it wasn't really that close. If CeeDee Lamb had made it there, I would have taken CeeDee Lamb, but that was really the only other consideration among the guys that had shots to get to me. I mean, it's really, like you said, Christian McCaffrey's coming off a lost season because of injury, but it's not like he's coming off an ACL tear. He's not even coming off a high ankle sprain. It's calf stuff that hasn't popped up this summer. So I'm not worried about that. Any running back can get hurt. And Saquon Barkley was completely healthy last year. You're not likely to do that in consecutive seasons at running back. So is Saquon Barkley less of an injury risk than Christian McCaffrey this year? I'm not sure, just because Christian McCaffrey was hurt last year. Injury stuff aside, the reason that I'm chasing McCaffrey is because of what we saw 2 years ago when he was healthy. And by the way, heading into that season, I was a little bit wary of him, getting a little bit older on this team where we hadn't seen workhorse running backs, dominant, work getters in San Francisco. We got that. They showed after trading for him that they want to give McCaffrey the ball as much as possible. I don't see why they wouldn't continue to do that this year, assuming that he's healthy. And when they did that, he was multiple points per game better than anybody else, like anybody else at running back, anybody else at cross position. So, in this large field tournament, we have to make bets on that ultimate upside. And if something goes wrong with it, then, your team is shot, but that's the game we're playing. So that ultimate upside bet, I felt was a good way to start my team. And if he does stay healthy, I think that he's going to lay an excellent base for me.
Would you have taken him had Bijan Robinson been available? Would you have taken McCaffrey?
I probably would have leaned Bijan Robinson because he is younger. So that takes away one risk factor. It wouldn't have been totally comfy. I still would have been like, oh, I hope this works out.
Right. Yes, exactly. Well, it did work out. You got a stack here early on in this draft. 404. I think it was 409, beg your pardon, 409 Jalen Hurts here as your quarterback. You drafted A.J. Brown in the second. Was that what it was at the 209? Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Had you not taken Brown at the 209, had he not made it there, and you did not have a stack, would you have still taken Hurts in the fourth round?
I still would have considered Jalen Hurts there. I can't say for sure what I would have done because I was looking at Jonathan Taylor before that A.J. Brown pick in round 2. He went right before me. Round 3, I was looking at T. Higgins. So, if I'm taking T. Higgins in round 3, don't have A.J. Brown, then I'm probably trying to wait for Joe Burrow, especially in this drafting, arena where drafters kind of let quarterbacks fall, and the top 4 guys went early, but after that, Joe Burrow went a little bit behind that group. And then I think Patrick Mahomes was the next one in round 9. So I was surprised at that particular gap. If I didn't have the stack, then I probably would have passed on Jalen Hurts at that 409. But I think whether you have an Eagles receiver or not, he makes sense in that range.
You get McCaffrey, A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts is the 4th round. Who's your 3rd round pick in that, Matt? I know I'm putting you on the spot here. Kyren Williams. Okay, perfect. DJ Moore, we already talked about. You end up taking him in the 5th round. I want to talk about your 8th round pick here in Dalton Kincaid. This was, and I read some of the replies after you posted it on X at Schauf DS. Give him a follow. A few of the replies pointed out you could have had Tucker Kraft there. Instead, you went with Dalton Kincaid. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying it's right. But did you consider Tucker Kraft there when you decided to go with Kincaid? Were there any other tight ends you were looking at? And why did the scales tip in favor of the young pass catcher from Buffalo?
It was Kincaid and Kraft right next to each other in my draft war room from draftsharks.com as I was making that pick. So I really could have gone either way between them. I preferred Kincaid because I think that there's a better chance that he turns into the guy that's getting targets every week. Not necessarily every single week, but his 2 seasons so far have been his rookie year where he started a little slowly and his second year where he had multiple injuries. And he finished each of those seasons second among Bills in targets. So there's upside that he leads this team in targets overall. I think that there's a chance Buffalo throws the ball a bit more, but I'm not really betting on that. Really, I'm just betting on a former first-round pick, if he stays healthy, maintaining at least that high level target volume with some upside to do a bit more than that. And then, it's fun to bet on a Bill where it makes sense because I'm up in Bills country. My wife enjoys watching the Bills. So when we're watching the Bills games on Sunday, I can be like, all right, that's my guy who almost scored a touchdown.
I think that's underrated, right? Fantasy is supposed to be fun. And there is some enjoyment out of that. I don't know if that's the best thing for me to be saying as a guy who gives fantasy advice, that like sometimes I break ties and favor players I just like watching or players on my team or whatever. But I do get a certain amount of enjoyment for that. And sometimes, you could be right too. Like you could make the right choice, who's your hometown guy or your favorite player or whatever, and it could work out fantasy wise for you as well. All right. It's not working out at all well this offseason for Joe Mixon. Matt, you take him here at the 1104. Joe Del Zanero, I quote him all the time, longtime FFPC player from the Dow of Baker Boy, his nickname. He said there's no such thing as a bad draft pick after the 10th round. So I don't critique that at all. Mixon at the 1104 here. What is your level of insight you have into the situation? There's a lot of rumors going around out there about him potentially getting a procedure that was not cleared by the team. I don't know if that's to be believed at all, if that can be corroborated. The level of insight I have, John McClain, I think it was, who's covered the Texans for years, was asked about this in a radio interview like a month or so ago. And he was asked about Mixon. And he said, look, Mixon doesn't know like what's going on, and the Texans don't know what's going on. So he's lit, and this guy's plugged in, as plugged in can be. And he's saying they don't even know what's going on. So at that point, when you're looking at Mixon for the upside, knowing that when this guy's right in the 11th round, he is a potential league winner, how difficult of a pick was that? Or was this a case, maybe you were looking at him in the 9th, you were looking at him in the 10th, and he was in the 11th, you're like, okay, screw it, I'm taking him here. Joe Mixon, I'll just let you go off on this because, quite frankly, whatever you tell me here, I'm going to learn a lot more than what I already know.
Well, let me start by saying I have absolutely no insight. If the Texans don't know and Joe Mixon doesn't know, I certainly don't know.
Right.
And he was not a must-have. I wasn't considering him any rounds before round 11. I was actually considering Chris Godwin the round before, who's another kind of you're going to have to wait for the payoff guy. And if I had gotten him there, I probably would not have followed that with Mixon in the 11th. But I looked at the landscape at this point. I didn't love the other running backs around. I do like Tank Bigsby, but I basically looked at Joe Mixon like a handcuff running back. Any of those running backs that you take at this level, you need something to break in your favor for that guy to be valuable. Like Ray Davis, obviously he's going to play sooner than Joe Mixon will, but he needs a James Cook injury to actually give you fantasy value. So that's the type of player I'm drafting there. And if I'm within that pool, then who has more upside than a healthy Joe Mixon? Yeah. And on the other hand, if I never get a healthy Joe Mixon, it's round 11. Granted, I would like for my round 11 pick to work out, but that is a guy that I can cut in a few weeks if I need to get something else. Just to kind of round out that handcuff point. Trey Benson went well before Joe Mixon in my draft. Zach Charbonnet, J.K. Dobbins, Jordan Mason, Cam Scatterbo, Caleb Johnson all went in round 8. I don't think any of those guys is helping their teams in this league or this tournament. Excuse me. Or this tournament over the first week or two. So wait a few rounds, take Mixon. If it doesn't work out, I cut bait, and I still like the first 3 running backs I had on my team. So I think I can withstand it.
Did you get another Texans running back later?
Yeah, I took Dameon Pierce several rounds after that.
That's what it was. Okay, so there is something to be said for that. Because I'm not as fun as it is to draft Nick Chubb and think about what he was 3 or 4 years ago. That was 3 or 4 years ago, and probably multiple surgeries ago. And we've heard, who was it? What was it? The Texans coach? I can't remember who it was now. Saying, he was asked by a reporter, how's Nick Chubb looking? And he basically said something to the effect of like, well, he's not the same player he was. He's a veteran. It's the playing the game has taken a toll on him, but he brings a lot of wisdom. lot of wisdom to that, which is like
just what you want.
No, it's just what you want if you don't want to take him. But if you're drafting him, that's the worst thing to hear. So when you consider that, like, I think Nick Chubb is a jag at this point, and I could not be less excited to draft him. And if that's the case, then I should like Mixon, right? I should like Dameon Pierce. So there might be something there in regards to that. Now, you doubled down. You said you think I can only draft one injured guy? Hold my beer. Right away in the 12th round, you go right back to the Brandon Ayuk, a guy who may not be ready till mid-October. Listen, Matt, one of these guys I get, two of them back-to-back, and now we're looking at the roster cloggers. I guess the saving grace here, 11th and 12th round, again, you can just drop them. But you don't necessarily want to drop these guys until you see them in action, to see what you have in them, right? And I think for that, it's like, listen, you're a really talented fantasy football player, more talented than me. I don't think I could pull off two of these guys. I think I can finagle one and then manipulate my roster enough, especially in the bye week start. But two is dicey. But you seem pretty confident in it to go back-to-back Mixon and Ayuk. Obviously, the upside really high, but getting to the point in the season where they can contribute might be a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, check back with me on the first week of October. If I'm sitting at 1-3 and just hating life, then it was the wrong way to go. But I think that I can absorb Ayuk without, like, I don't want to let Mixon's presence make me pass on Ayuk. I think Ayuk makes more sense for my team because I really like the first four wide receivers I have on my team. I obviously really like the running backs that I took in the first two rounds. So to me, those are the six players that I need to cover running back, wide receiver, flex positions. The wide receivers in particular gave me that flexibility to wait on Ayuk, who is a better bet to return and be effective at some point than Joe Mixon. So I think it's not quite the same bet. It looks similar because they're both inactive to start the season, but I think we're probably going to get about 4 inactive weeks from Brandon Ayuk, and then he starts doing something. So I don't need to have as much patience. Again, though, AJ Brown, DJ Moore, Zay Flowers, Josh Downs. I think I got all 4 of those guys later than they should have gone. I think they're all going to pay off for me. So if Brandon Ayuk gives me anything, then it's closer to a bonus than what I'm expecting. And, like I said, with Mixon, I hope my round 12 pick works out. But if I get to round 4 and I really need it, I mean, yeah, it would stink to dump Brandon Ayuk before seeing what happened, but I'm ultimately dumping my round 12 pick, not, a wide receiver 1.
That's how you justify it. Makes perfect sense to me. Roderick Dobson pointing out on YouTube right now, and I got the tweet or the X post, I should say, from Adam Schefter as well, that the Niners have listed Christian McCaffrey's practice participation as limited today due to a calf injury. And I don't want to sound the alarms. He's still got in some practice. And the way that and Matt, you might know this more about this than I do, but the way I've understood this, and I had this explained to me, that if you participate, in order to get like a full practice, you have to participate in every single rep, right, that you normally would. In other words, if you get dinged or your cleat gets stuck in the ground or something and you miss a rep and you go off to the sideline and you say, oh, yeah, it kind of hurt my knee, but it's good now. And you go back in, you practice the rest of the way, boom, you have to be listed as limited because you missed that one rep. So I don't know if that's true. That's just what I've heard, had explained to me. But so I'm not going to get too wrapped up into this. However, if he's limited again or a DNP on Friday, then I'm sounding the alarms. This is not good. But at least maybe just for week 1. The good thing about it, they don't play on Monday night this year. So we'll have the opportunity to take him out and put Brian Robinson in or another running back in or what have you. I'm not freaking out about this, but certainly not great news tonight.
No, especially with the calf. I just finished saying, hey, there hasn't been any issue with the calf, and now there's an issue with the calf. So I guess I'm not sounding the alarm, but I'm at least looking at it and wondering if I have to break the glass.
Yeah. I mean, and we'll see what happens. I think that this is good to know now, but you're obviously you're not playing Javonte Williams over McCaffrey tonight. You're not playing Najee Harris over Christian McCaffrey tomorrow. Let's see how this plays out. Let's see what the practice report is tomorrow. Speaking of injuries, and this guy is hurt as well, but he's not going to miss near as much time as Mixon and Ayuk, we think. Isaiah Likely, your 15th round pick. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe he was your 3rd tight end that you chose at this point. And this was a guy who went crazy town banana pants the first week of the season last year. Skyrocketed up FFPC main event draft boards after that second, third round pick. Obviously, those people were not paid off for doing that. But he's got a lot of talent. Harbaugh said he wants him to be an all-pro this year. That's his expectation. So, I mean, all signs point to like, hey, 15th round for Isaiah Likely. Yeah, ship it. And you seem like even if this doesn't work out, 15th round, and you have 2 tight ends in front of him. I only see the upside in this pick.
Agreed. Tight end 26 in this particular draft. I'm actually more interested in Isaiah Likely since the foot injury than I was before, because he was going like tight end 16, tight end 15. That's too early. John Harbaugh can say what he wants, but all we've seen is that when Mark Andrews is healthy, Isaiah Likely gets limited volume in this offense that doesn't pass the ball a whole lot. So Isaiah Likely is that handcuffed bet primarily. If he gets more work with Mark Andrews around, then awesome. But in round 15, I'm willing to wait for the recovery from this foot injury that sounds like it might not even keep him out beyond week 1. If he's back by week 2, I think it's a bonanza.
The Trey Harris pick at 1704, I know a lot of the steam went out of him with Keandre Lambert-Smith reportedly outplaying him at times in preseason. Obviously, they went out and signed Keenan Allen as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what you liked about Trey Harris here in that 17th round that has you saying like, hey, this could be a guy who helps my team this year?
I like that he was a second-round pick. I like that he was a freaking stud in the SEC, and I like that he's with Justin Herbert and does have opportunity. We'll see. He might do nothing this year, but certainly drafting him in the range where I can dump him if he's not doing anything and I need something else to help me. So it's really just an upside bet on that rookie receiver archetype that we've seen plenty of times build up over the second half of the season and then deliver big value at the time when I need it, when we get down to playoff weeks. If Trey Harris is in the lineup, he could be this potential difference maker that I've had for longer than other teams had. And like I said, if he's not, then he's probably getting cut by the middle of the season.
The last thing I want to ask you about this draft, Matt, when you sat back, you took the wide scope of it after it was all over. You looked at all 20 picks. Did you have a favorite selection or perhaps maybe a least favorite selection?
Favorite is Josh Downs, just barely ahead of Zay Flowers, but Josh Downs, wide receiver 46. He's got upside at the very least into wide receiver 3 range. He performed at that level last year with bad quarterback play, scored even above that in Joe Flacco games. Now he's got a quarterback that historically throws short passes to guys in roles like what Josh Downs plays for the Colts. So the upside, I think, goes into wide receiver 2 range. I love him. I think he's going to start games for me multiple weeks this year.
The final question here, Matt. We will continue to connect with you on X at SchaufDS. DraftSharks.com is the website where you are churning out mad, crazy content. I know one of these years I'm going to bite the bullet. We're going to do an IDP segment on this show just because you're so damn good at it. Even though the FFPC doesn't offer an IDP
why not?
format, I know. It's ridiculous. We are behind the curve on this. Everything IDP you do is tremendous. It's award-winning. And for anybody who's interested in consuming more content, at SchaufDS on X and then DraftSharks.com.
Yeah, you can find all my stuff at DraftSharks.com. We've got the DraftSharks YouTube channel. You can obviously get the audio pods wherever you want to. So I was on DraftSharks.com tonight getting all of my lineup set, including that main event lineup set with my team intel page, free agent finder. You know, I'm using all the tools on there. You can find the content, but the tools are what are really going to help you manage all those teams. I know the guys watching, the people watching this show are like me, where they're managing a whole bunch of teams and it can get to be a lot. So we're just looking to help people do that as easily as possible.
I will say too, on a personal note, I use the Draft Sharks War Room in a lot of my leagues this year. And also with waiver wires going off yesterday, first waiver wire of the season in the KFFSC and a lot of my private dynasty leagues, I utilized the waiver wire article that you guys had posted yesterday. Did you write that? I can't even remember who wrote it.
No, it's our new guy, Jody Smith, along with Kevin English.
That's right. Okay, perfect. So yes, definitely. Here's one IDP question before we get out the door.
Ooh.
Matt Deutsch, our producer. Which Cowboys linebacker to start tonight? I don't even know how to pronounce this guy's name. Leofau or Murray? Yeah,
I would go Murray over Leofau. We're guessing on all those guys for playing time. But if you're deciding between those two, I think Murray's a better bet to play more snaps. But we'll see. He missed some time with injury in this preseason, and he has spent lots of time not impressing people.
Matt, I promise I'm going to get you out of here. I just thought of one more thing. Number one, give us a final score prediction tonight for your world champion Philadelphia Eagles. versus the Cowboys final score. And then we always see draft boards go a little haywire after the Thursday night game. Can you give me a prediction on which player is going to ascend or fall in this game based on their performance?
I'm going to go super fan style. I'm going to say Birds 73, Cowboys -6. And A.J. Brown is going to score at least 1 touchdown, maybe 2. He's going to be a late first-round pick by the weekend.
Well, the original Philadelphia Eagles super fan, Matt Bill Swirsky Schauf, joining us tonight. Matt, it's always a pleasure. You were the very first co-host I ever had on this show.
Nice.
And every time we get a chance to welcome you back, I do that with open arms. Enjoy the game tonight. Keep up all the great work at draftsharks.com, and we will talk with you again very soon.
I always enjoy talking to you too. You guys have a great time out in Vegas. I love being part of the FFPC and being part of your show. Always good to talk to you, bud.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. We will talk with you again sooner than you think. We are live at the Horseshoe Convention Center. Behind me is the players gathering in for the FFPC watch party for the Cowboys and Eagles tonight. We're going to have hundreds of people here, and we're actually going to be doing the second half of the show here tonight while the game's going on. You see the television behind me right here. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We are taking a break from drafting to watch the game. However, don't forget FFPC Big Gorilla action tonight, all day tomorrow as well. If you want to win $1 million, $350 is what it's going to cost you. You're going to get a $50 discount on every third team you get. A few hundred teams left in that. Probably going to reach capacity, I think. I don't know for sure. I never like to jinx it or say any, speak out of turn. I can confidently say that if you want to draft in the Big Gorilla, get in now while you can. $1 million grand prize at stake, nearly a $6 million prize pool available at myffpc.com, myffpc.com. Don't forget about that 7 Bananas promo where you can win free FFPC teams just by getting lucky with what pick you are randomized with as well. Okay, we have to take a break. We'll reset here. Matt is going to go put on his Birds gear and watch the game. And we are going to be joined by all 22 FF himself. Dustin Royer from Dynasty Rewind is going to join us tonight. We'll get to some of the other headlines going around the NFL. We're also going to talk about some of his favorite players that he's targeting, not only in redraft leagues, but players he's looking to start or bench this week as well. Would you rather draft will be one of the segments we talk about with him. And since he is an expert in Dynasty, we might get into some Dynasty conversation as well. So don't go anywhere. I am Eric Balkman. This is FFPC Insider Access on the Better Sports Network, live at the Horseshoe Convention Center for the FFPC Watch Party. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this.
What's up, everybody? Andrew Cooper here of Fantasy Alarm, and I'm here to talk to you guys about how to take advantage of your takes. I got them. You got them. We've all been thinking about ways to go with this rookie class, maybe even ways to get away from the rookie class, to go with the older veterans, to take advantage. Dynasty Startup Leagues at ffpc.com. My FFPC, that's the place to play. That's where you can go in and you can load up on the rookies from this class. If you love Ashton Genty, if you love a Marion Hampton, if you're fired up about Pat Bryant, whoever it is, you can go in and get all these guys now and have them for their entire careers. Now is the time to get in and do it. Or if you don't like these rookies, if you think it was stupid that the Bears took Colston Loveland, if you think Emeka Egbuka is going to be buried behind Mike Evans and Chris Godwin for years and years, flip it. Go in and draft veterans. Go in and draft guys now while everybody else is going for picks and players and prospects. Load up, put your name on the trophy and the money in your pocket right now. And the best place to do it, where I do it, where all the experts do it, FFPC, myffpc.com. And when you use promo code ALARM, they'll give you $25 when you deposit $35 or more. So get in there now and do a Dynasty Startup Draft. Draft your team. Show everyone that you would have dominated the real NFL draft, that you're the real best GM, and win some money over at myffpc.com now.
Hour number 2 of the FFPC Insider Access Show is live here on the Better Sports Network from the Horseshoe Convention Center in gorgeous Las Vegas, Nevada. Behind me is the FFPC watch party getting underway. People finishing their drafts, coming in here to enjoy some drinks, which I'm going to take a sip of water right now because my throat's getting bad. They're also going to enjoy some free food as well. It's going to be a blast tonight when we watch Dallas and Philadelphia. Bear in mind that if you do want to take advantage of that FFPC Big Gorilla competition, you can sign up now at myffpc.com. $1 million grand prize. I just checked. We have 718 teams left, which means we probably went through almost 300 so far today. So it's going fast. You don't want to miss out on this if you haven't gotten in. Or maybe you already have 2 teams. You want to get a third. You're going to get a $50 discount on that as well. myffpc.com for that. Speaking of fantasy football, let's bring in a Dynasty expert here tonight. Dynasty Startups, obviously going at myffpc.com as well. This guy from Dynasty Rewind, dynastyrewind.com, at all22_FF on the X. He is Dustin Royer. Dustin, thanks so much for hopping aboard tonight. Happy NFL season to you, my friend.
I am so excited, Eric. I'm so happy to be here. And I have to say, you're way too kind calling me an expert. I just so happen to be a little bit more obsessed with Dynasty and playing fantasy football than the next guy.
Which is fine. And it's good. I mean, like, it's good. It's, I always hesitate. Maybe I shouldn't use the term expert for anybody. I would say analyst, because is anybody really an expert in this industry? Maybe not. I don't know. But you are definitely a very skilled analyst, which is why we're having you on tonight. And I want, when we talk, feel free to weave in any Dynasty conversation. I feel like after the NFL draft, I stopped talking about Dynasty because we get into redraft season so quickly in May. And it's been like 3 months, almost 4 months now, or whatever it's been. And maybe it's a good thing to revisit Dynasty fantasy football in these last few days before the NFL season gets real. Maybe there's some things that you should be doing with some of these players. I know one of the things that you are doing with Malik Nabers is drafting him everywhere you can. You are a big fan of Malik Nabers. He returned to practice this week. He's been dealing with a toe, a back, some other stuff here. I think you and I are of one mind on this. It's not the greatest thing in the world to be dealing with all these nagging injuries right away. I am not concerned enough to say I'm not taking him in the late first round. And you've been drafting him a lot too, Dustin.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first thing is the toe injury is something that him and the team have both said he's been managing it for a long time. I really think it comes down to Malik not having to be Superman on every single play. My whole case with him, I mean, I think he can finish as the wide receiver 1. He had the 56th ranked quarterback rating per target last year and still managed to break the rookie reception record for a wide receiver. He was number 1 in expected fantasy points at 23.8, and he still finished number 6 at 18.2 fantasy points per game. So, I mean, his slot rate was really low as well. And I know that Russ, Dart, and JMO might not look from a fantasy football perspective as like the best QB room, but from a NFL perspective, a continuity perspective, I can't think of another team if they lost their QB1 or even QB2 where they could just continue to execute the offense. The offense is, Malik's down there somewhere. So I'm not really worried about it, man. He's a dog.
He is a dog, for sure. I know another wide receiver that you're in on this year is Jayden Higgins. DJ Bien-Aime from ESPN, who covers the Texans, reported that Xavier Hutchinson has been rotating with Jayden Higgins, when they're playing 3 wideouts. However, that was when Christian Kirk was healthy. He's dealing with a hamstring right now, and honestly not looking great to be playing this week. When you consider that we still have FFPC drafts going on here, not only online, but in Las Vegas as well, is this making you want to draft Higgins even more, bumping him up a little bit more? I guess it's somewhat concerning that he's rotating with Hutchinson, but maybe you could sell me on why that's not a big issue for you.
So I've been high on Higgins since the pre-draft process. One of my little bites with the analysis on Higgins is a lot of people say he's a clone of Nico Collins, but if you really look at the usage in college, he works better as like a Z or a flanker, so he's an outside inside guy. So, I mean, the stuff with Hutchinson, I think it was more to do with just rotating reps and getting him a little bit more comfortable. I think now with Kirk being injured, they're going to be able to kick him inside. And as weird as it seems when you look at him, Noel actually has a little bit of a better skill set outside. And I think if those two rookies are able to get on the field together, just their building chemistry alone is going to kind of boost it. But I thought Jayden Higgins should be used as a big slot the entire time. And I just can't wait because CJ Stroud, I'm an Ohio State lifer, so CJ Stroud's a kingmaker. He's put 3 wide receivers first round into the NFL, but he just 1, 2, 3. He needs those options. He's not good after when the play breaks down. So for me, when I'm looking at that offense, I'm just insert Higgins as Diggs, insert Noel as slot receiver. I hate to say it. I mean, I don't hate players, hate ADPs, but I didn't regard Kirk as anything the entire season.
I think that, and this is a guy that was going to be cut, by the Jaguars till the Texans stepped in with a 7th round pick. So I think it's important not to overrate what Kirk's impact is on this offense. And when you consider the draft capital that Noel and Higgins got, this could be something where maybe it's Kirk to start off the season, maybe not with the hamstring now. But then October, November, we're seeing a lot more Higgins. We're seeing a lot more Noel for sure.
Yeah.
I'm playing the Dustin Reuter hits here because I'm going to ask you about Kayshon Boutte, a player that now he's not here tonight, but Adam Hahn, who is a loyal viewer to this show in the HSFF Hour, the Road of His High Stakes Lowdown, he has been chomping in the chat about Kayshon Boutte, that everybody's forgetting about him. Everybody talks about Douglas and Diggs and Kyle Williams, but nobody talks about Kayshon Boutte. This has been quite the turnaround for him. A guy once regarded. You and I are old enough to remember when this guy we thought was going to be a first-round pick in the NFL, and that didn't happen. And he went way down. Was he even drafted? I don't even remember if he was drafted or not.
He was a 7th or a 6th round pick.
Okay, so definitely day 3, which is a huge step down. But this offseason's been good, and still people are sleeping on him. I would say in the big gorilla, I don't see him getting drafted a whole lot, Dustin, but maybe this is something that needs to be rectified this weekend, and we need to be utilizing a 19th round pick or a 20th round pick on Kayshon Boutte. What can you do to sell the listeners and the viewers on Kayshon Boutte in their drafts this weekend?
First thing I want to say is, like, in my time with prospecting film, I've gotten to know some beat writers across different areas. And there's a guy out there at ZEEBEE. He works for Patriots website, and he has me on Boutte, Drake May, TreVeyon Henderson. But the end of the season last year, from week 8 on, the last 10 games, not including the bye week, Kayshon Boutte averaged 6 targets per game from Drake May. The thing is, though, is they were kind of using him as an X on the outside. He had one of the higher depth of targets. I think it was like 14.7 yards or something like that. But he came into the offseason, and one of the first reports I saw was he walked in the door with the X mentality. And they're saying, he's had like an alpha off season, and it's the craziest thing. Like, I grew up in the Sigmund Bloom narrative street, like spiritual football realm. He's one of my good friends around here, and Christian Gonzalez is the number 84 player on the top 100, regarded as one of the best corners coming up in the NFL. There was 2 days in a row where the alerts on X were Kayshon Boutte in the red zone touchdown over Gonzalez. Well, the last practice that Gonzalez played in, Kayshon had 2 touchdowns in the red zone, clamped him up enough that Gonzalez has been out with a hamstring ever since.
Wow.
And the last time that they interviewed Boutte, they asked him a question about Drake May, and he stepped back from the podium and he says, "I can't speak on my quarterback." He's all business, man. I've seen him moving around. He's rocked up, and he's wearing that single digit number too, and that always gets me, man. That makes them big dudes just look great. But he's 5'11", he's 195 coming in. Like you said, he's very, very talented. He's kind of the case study of why the NFL will always take shots on knuckleheads, quote unquote. Like, he had like some gambling stuff, I think. But it's that one in whatever chance that a guy does what he's doing. So I'm really excited. I mean, I think he's one of the best dart throws that you can kind of put on the board. In my dynasty leagues, I had him, Polk, and Baker basically stashed everywhere, just trying to see what was going to come, through with that.
And Polk and Baker are both on IR right now, right? Is that what happened? Or did Baker get released? I can't remember. I just know he's not going to be relevant at the start of the 2025 season.
Polk's on IR, and I think Baker got released. I might have signed to somebody's practice squad.
Okay. Those are the young guys, Boutte, Polk, Baker. What about an older guy, Alvin Kamara? A guy that a lot of people slept on last year and paid the price because he had a really good season. Is he going to have another really good season this year? I know it's tough for a dynasty guy to talk about a player this old, Dustin, but when you consider that you can get Alvin Kamara, who's running back 17, in the FFPC Big Gorilla right now in the early 4th round, after James Cook, after Kenneth Walker, significantly ahead of Breece Hall. Are you in on Alvin Kamara for one last ride in 2025?
Absolutely all in on Alvin Kamara. I have 11 dynasty teams, and I think I have him on 4 or 5 of those rosters. In the offseason, he was acquirable as if like he was some sort of mid-range running back 2, something like that price-wise. And if you look back, you can say he's injury prone, but it's really kind of like what they did to Chuba Hubbard in Carolina. They just shut him down at the end of the year. They stashed him on IR and they let him go. But in this offense, everyone's talking about the rookie quarterback. But if you look ever since Drew Brees has retired, the circumstances for Alvin Kamara really haven't changed whatsoever.
That's good to meet you.
So he's going to be the primary weapon in the run game. I mean, I know a lot of people were kind of scoffing at that, but he hasn't had over 1,000 rushing yards in his career. So, I mean, if we can get that little bit of boost in efficiency with the rushing, plus, more than likely he's going to be the, second, third read in almost every play. So I'm all in on him. He was so easy to acquire, and like to be able to stack your teams with a Kamara as your RB2. It seems like a cheat code.
Cap for life on YouTube right now, Dustin is asking. I assume for this week, Ollie Gordon or RJ Harvey. I would say Harvey unless Achane is hurt. Then I would play Gordon over Harvey, but right now it's Harvey for me.
Yeah, I would go Harvey. I mean, with week 1, you always want to start your studs, but Harvey seems to have a pretty safe floor, but he could just go absolutely nuclear.
It's true. And he just changed his jersey number too. No longer, I think he was like 37 or something, and now he's in the teens, I want to say. So that's always good. Slimming down the number. Maybe that means more sleep performance too.
That's how you can tell we're getting old, because none of us freaked out. We were like, yeah, make them earn it, coach.
Yeah, exactly. Zach Charbonnet, speaking of running backs, expected to have a significant role in the Seattle backfield this season. This according to Brady Henderson, who covers the Seahawks for ESPN.com. We have seen Walker fall in drafts. We have seen Charbonnet rise in drafts. They haven't met in the middle. I don't anticipate them meeting in the middle by the time drafting season is over this Saturday night. However, I will say that Charbonnet to me is looking a lot more appealing at current price than Kenneth Walker. And Dustin, I'll let you answer that question. But before you do, I'm going to tell you right now that Charbonnet has moved up according to Fantasy Mojo. He is at running back 29 at the 7-12 over the last 2 days. Kenneth Walker right now is actually going to be going at running back 16 at the 3-12. So that's the difference. You're looking at 4 rounds of difference. I'd be much more likely to draft Charbonnet at cost rather than Kenneth Walker at cost.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. One of my big waves that I think I'd like to take credit for starting this offseason was the fade Ken Walker.
Right.
I mean, I'm all in on the Kubiak offense. The Kubiak family doesn't get enough credit for helping create the Shanahan offense, Mike and everything. But the problem I have with Kenneth Walker, everybody I think you're the one I got this from. In a gladiator sport like the NFL, everybody gets injured, you know. But when you look at Kenneth Walker, I actually dug into this. So from 2021 until last season, he had on record 10 reoccurrences of the same 3 injuries. He had an ankle, a groin, and an abdominal injury. 2 more reported in high school that you can't get records for that. And right now he's 24 years old and he's currently on a practice maintenance plan. You got to couple that with the fact that last season in week 16, Charbonnet was named captain of the football team. The next week, Ken Walker was put on IR. They fired their offensive coordinator because he wouldn't run the football. So for me, it just kind of all started pointing to the same thing. I mean, in every game that Charbonnet had over a 75% snap share, he was RB1, RB8, RB7, RB19 in points per game. Ken Walker only had a 75% snap share once last season. Every time he had over 70% snap share, he either came out of the game or missed the game the next week. So, I mean, it's really a risk-reward thing, but it just seemed like all the cards were on the table for Charbonnet. I mean, this season feels like anti-fragility 0 RB. It's like everybody is bouncing so hard back to like, oh, RBs aren't going to get injured. These old guys are back. But it really feels like the anti-fragility is the way to go with this generationally athletic running back class coming in. I mean, hero RB and then just grab these amazing wide receivers. You said like the 312 for Kenneth Walker. I would rather have a Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think he's going around there now. I take Ladd in the mid-second. I'm not sure where he's at now. But give me one of those guys, and I'll stack running backs later.
I think like one of my biggest arguments for taking Kenneth Walker at the 312, and I wouldn't do it, but if I would, part of the reason I would do that was because I like George Pickens later. I like Jameson Williams later. I like Calvin Ridley later. And even those guys are ascending a little bit too. So you have to understand, like those, if you're thinking you're getting those receivers later, maybe 2 of those guys, you're probably not getting 2 of those guys. You may not even get 1 of those guys. So that's the thing to keep in mind with Kenneth Walker too, if you choose to draft him at that spot. This is a bizarre story that I want to get to with you. So Nate Taylor covers the Kansas City Chiefs for ESPN.com. I want to repeat that. He covers the Chiefs for ESPN.com. And yet he has a story yesterday published on ESPN that the Chargers are expecting to start Najee Harris tomorrow night against Kansas City. Najee Harris, the guy with the superficial eye injury that basically kept him out for months, and he's only somewhat returned to the practice field within the last week, maybe week and a half, expected to start over first-round pick Omarion Hampton. Bear in mind that Jim Harbaugh is the head coach here. Bear in mind that, again, Nate Taylor is certainly an accomplished journalist, but he normally covers the Chiefs, not the Chargers. How much stock are you putting into this, Dustin, when you are thinking about clicking Najee Harris as a flex and maybe thinking about benching Omarion Hampton based on this? What's to be believed, what's not to be believed at this point with this really bizarre, not necessarily, well, it is a bizarre story, but the twist is that this is coming from a Chiefs beat writer and not a Chargers beat writer.
Honestly, I don't even know what to believe now because Rich Eisen said that he was told by Harbaugh that Hampton was going to start the game. And then I think Schefter tweeted that back out. So it's just a mess. I mean, I think honestly we're getting to the age where these teams are aware of social media and us, and I think they just do what they can to troll us because they officially don't have to tell anybody anything until the ball's snapped. You know what I mean? So for me, though, I've been kind of cautious with the Harbaugh-Roman backfield in general just because the MO for them generally is 2 backs, have a veteran, bring in a rookie. I didn't see it with Hampton the same way that everybody did. I think because I was judging the O-line play like crazy and the strength of competition in the ACC. I mean, everybody wants to get on the Mountain West, but it's not very much better. Like the line that Hampton played with looked like they were Hall of Famers, but it was because they were playing against very, very low competition. I think we might see something like we did from Trey Benson last year, where maybe the game is just a little quick for Hampton. So I could see them leaning on Najee a little bit. I know everybody wants to think, he had the eye injury, he was out. But at the same time, you have to consider, like, from the day the season ended until Jim Harbaugh signed Najee, the plan was Najee. From that point until they happened to draft Hampton, which they said they weren't planning on him being there, they were game planning for Najee to be a part of the offense. I had this same conversation about Marvin Mims. People said he was going to be replaced. I was like, Sean Payton's a good enough coach that he game planned for Marvin Mims all the way up until those guys came into the fold. So I think that Najee's probably going to get the veteran deference because that's who Jim Harbaugh is. He's probably going to throw a parade. He's going to have like a floaty in the locker room, and it's going to be Najee scored a touchdown, the whole thing. So we'll see. But I think Hampton's going to be your prototypical first round, second half of the year league winning running back. I just don't know if he's going to save people's dynasty teams that sold the ship for what they thought was this close to Genty.
At least in year one.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens after that. It could still be a fine investment. But I'm with you. Like this Harris thing, I spent, the last couple of months believing one thing, and now I don't know how much. I definitely don't know how much I believe what I believed about Najee Harris before. Maybe this is just nothing, and Hampton goes out there and he plays, 80% of the snaps, and Harris works in for like 12 snaps or something like that. That honestly could be more likely than Harris starting. So I'm with you. I don't know what to believe on this point. So I'm going to go with my gut and tell me that's telling me that Hampton's still the guy. Don't bump up Harris in your drafts, and Hampton's probably a guy that you can start in week one, although it's not the greatest matchup either. Okay, we also have, by the way, we had Pete Nova chiming in on YouTube. Good to see him, former co-host, guest co-host of the show as well. Matt LaFleur said earlier, this is not a recent thing, but I think it's important to bring it up now. Quote, if there's an area we got to do a better job on, I would say featuring the tight end. Tucker Kraft is a player that I was not on most of the drafting season, Dustin, because of the way Green Bay's offense operates, because they spread it around so much, because they designed so much stuff for Reid and Dobbs and Watson and now Matthew Golden, Savion Williams, Dontavian Wicks, Josh Jacobs, and then you throw Tucker Kraft and now Luke Musgrave into the conversation. But the more I think about it, I'm kind of thinking, you know what? Maybe Kraft could be this top 5 tight end this year. Jordan Love talked about it. Matt LaFleur talked about it. And now I'm starting to believe in him. My last draft of the year, I drafted Tucker Kraft as my number 1 tight end when 10 of them were off the board. Feel pretty good about that. How do you feel about Tucker Kraft, not only as a player that you can count on in your lineups and redraft, but a player in Dynasty as well?
First of all, Tucker Kraft is my favorite NFL player for sure. He's a favorite of mine. I talked to Sigmund about him a bit too. He talks about that joyful warrior. And I know
George Kittle, Tucker Kraft, the joyful warriors. Absolutely.
Right. And I was just going to say this, people sometimes comps get misconstrued because we can only talk about notable players, right? So I made a scale for wide tight ends. You kind of have your Brenton Strange to George Kittle scale, right? And I think last season, Kraft kind of got to like a 6 out of 10 there. But when you really dig into it, he was one of the more efficient yards after the catch guys. He's not just like a big body wide tight end inline guy that can just rip the seam. He can run some routes. He can do stuff out of the backfield. He reminds me a lot. I know people have said Tyler Warren is Jeremy Shockey-ish, but I feel like Tucker Kraft might be like the edgiest tight end, but he's the nicest guy you've ever met. Just some of the stuff the guy's accomplished. I mean, he came in last season in the offseason with a torn pec, recovered from that, and then took over the tight end 1 job. And from what I've heard, he's just like a relentless person. He's a relentless teammate. And they need to get a primary for Jordan Love. I think he was injured last year, so that kept him in the pocket more, kept him reined in, but he has a tendency to want to drift and create stuff that doesn't need to be created. So yeah, like you said, I mean, he could be the next, I'd like to say the next Travis Kelce of their offense, not necessarily the next George Kittle, because there's probably going to be a lot more volume coming down the pipe this season.
Here's how I know that this is going to be a crazy town banana pants season, to borrow Keith Cummings' phrase.
Jalen Carter, when you said that earlier.
Yeah, I know. I don't give Heath Cummings enough credit for it. I say it all the time. Jalen Carter, the all-pro defensive tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles, ejected before the game even starts tonight as the captains meet at midfield. He spits on Dak Prescott and has been ejected from the game. The Eagles will not have their big run stuffer in Jalen Carter tonight. And the season hasn't even started. And this is the kind of stuff we're getting treated to, Dustin. It's unbelievable.
I had a take last season, and I'll say it right here live on air. He's the Ndamukong Suh of this generation.
He might be. He very well could be.
He's just nasty, man.
And we got proof positive of that tonight. People are just finding out now here at the watch party that he's been ejected. They've been showing replays. Crazy stuff. I'll tell you what else is crazy. Harold Fannon's ascent in redraft leagues. We knew people were excited about him in tight end premium, FFPC dynasty leagues. I'm seeing him go further and further up right now in redraft leagues. Your take, Dustin, on not necessarily his dynasty prospects. How good can this guy be for redraft leagues this year?
So he's it's tough with redraft. You know, it's not going to be somebody that you're going to be able to rely on in the beginning of the season. But that's the great part about the bye weeks not starting until week 5. You know, you can probably say you have a Jalen Coker or somebody you can stash on IR, you know, and then you have that extra spot to hold a Fannin. But one of the reasons I created the scale I was talking about was the FH tight end position is a lot different than your George Kittle, Tucker Kraft, Brenton Strange. You know, and the easiest comp to go to is Brock Bowers, but nobody's Brock Bowers. So you got like your Chiga Conquo, Jonnu Smith, the Brock Bowers range. And one of my takes this year is these 12 formation sets are going to flip the script in fantasy football, because we're used to, if there's 2 tight ends, you have a blocker and you have a receiving tight end. But guys like Harold Fannin, he can be a tight end, a slot receiver, a fullback, you know, kind of like what we saw in Miami out of Jonnu Smith. So they're going to take this positional flexibility, versatility thing to a whole nother level. You know, Fannin in the backfield, he's blocking you, they're running. Same play coming at you, but now he's a screen pass down the seam. You know, they're really starting to create positionless football. So I'm really excited for him. There's definitely an out with Njoku. He could be traded at the deadline. He's due a contract as well. But from what I'm hearing, I mean, he's going to be basically their starting slot receiver.
Which is insane when you consider how good he was basically as a big slot in college. I don't know, man. I know Njoku's ahead of him, but he's very, very intriguing for redraft. Already was intriguing for
he
for
runs
Dynasty.
like Antonio Gates. He has that, like, it looks like he has a ball bearing. He's doing the salsa dance all the time.
Yes, it's true. We got a score. The NFL season is underway now, and of course, the first touchdown of the season, just like we all drew it up. Javonte Williams from 1 yard out. Dallas takes a 7-0 lead over Philadelphia. 11:49 to go in the first quarter. 3 carries for 11 yards for Javonte Williams. Cede Lamb has a 32-yard catch. George Pickens also in the box score as well with a 6-yard catch. Philadelphia about to get the ball here as we celebrate Fantasy Football Night in America on the Better Sports Network with Dustin Royer making his debut on FFPC Insider Access. Patrick Mahomes, are we to believe that the aerial attack is back for Mahomes and Worthy and Rice and Kelsey this year? Or do you still think this is a team that's going to predicate its wins and losses on defense and the ground game?
I'm kind of in a I'll believe it when I see it with Mahomes anymore. You know, last year, especially when I got into like some postseason games on FFPC, I started digging into his seasons, and he really hasn't been great since like midway through 2 years ago or so. You know, he's just kind of been getting by. And I've heard people talk about, you know, best wide receiving core that he's had. I mean, if you look at it on paper as a whole, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Jalen Royals. It looks great, but everybody's banged up right now, and I'm not really sure that Hollywood Brown is really much of a downfield upgrade than the random just the guys they've had there. It seems like I was trying to think of a way to quantify this, but it's like the Chiefs' offense is like a Mustang held together with duct tape. You know what I'm saying? Like if it gets you there, it's gonna get you there. It's gonna be awesome. But it feels like one thing goes wrong with that team, and it's all gonna fall apart. Because you have Rice suspended. What if Kelsey's washed? There's two guys gone. Xavier Worthy, he could be great, but I don't trust guys with a sub 2.7 BMI. They get injured. Tank Dell, Hollywood Brown, guys that are small like that, they get destroyed. So I really want to see it. I mean, we could end up with like a hero ball season out of Mahomes, though. We really haven't seen him just have to put the whole team on his back like a la, Josh Allen. So there's a lot of stuff this season that's just kind of in the cards, all scrambled up. I'm so excited.
The other thing I should mention, mea culpa, it was not when the captains met for the coin toss at midfield. It was after the opening kickoff that Jalen Carter spit at Dak Prescott and was ejected. So, yeah, just you can't make this stuff up. I want to get into, we got, how much time do we have left? We could pound out so that some of these starter sets. So, Dustin, these are week one, no, let's not do starter sets. Excuse me. I'm already in week 2 mode. I got to be in pre-draft mode. Who would you rather draft? These players are basically going right next to each other in FFPC drafts right now. And I want to know, if you were on the clock and you have made up your mind that you're going to take one of these 2 players, which player is it going to be? The first one, would you rather draft Breece Hall, obviously the lead running back in that Jets ground game this year, or Chuba Hubbard, who definitely is the lead guy in Carolina, but maybe faces less competition for snaps than Breece Hall does with both Isaiah Davis and Braylon Allen? Who would you rather draft between Hubbard and Hall?
If you made me pick one, I would go with Chuba Hubbard. I would pick Alvin Kamara, though, in that range of ADP, just over both of them. But I think Chuba, especially with the Jalen Coker injury, they're going to need more volume in the passing game coming out of the backfield. Sanders, I don't think really is anything. He's had a knee and a hamstring, I think, almost the entire camp. And then you're looking at rookie, Trevor Etienne, which I think he could have some hopes as a satellite back there. But I'm starting to come around to this idea that Chuba Hubbard is just Joe Mixon again. Like, he's just going to get all the volume. He's going to be inefficient. And then at the end of the year, you're going to look at your team and you're like, oh, he was an RB1? So I think it's a good investment where he's going. There's a lot less risk involved with Chuba, his workload, and the guys around him, like you said.
I think that's a fun, but I don't know, maybe this is torture, I don't know, but a decision that a lot of players are looking at in drafts right now, as far as what running back do I take in the injury away category. You have Tyler Algier on this next one, a guy who should see a lot of volume if Bijan Robinson were to go down at any point. And then you have Woody Marks, who maybe doesn't have necessarily great contingent upside, considering probably Pierce and Chubb would have to go down for him to really have an effect. However, he is a really good pass catcher. And maybe there's a role for him right away. And maybe that's a guy that you can feel like in a pinch, in those 16 bye weeks, you can stick Woody Marks in and he'll maybe get you the better part of 10 points. But if Chubb were to go down, which nobody would surprise if that happens, if Dameon Pierce is rendered ineffective again, nobody would be surprised if that happens. Woody Marks could be featured in this offense, at least until Mixon comes back, and God knows when that would be. So if you're deciding between these 2 guys later in your FFPC draft, are you team Algier or are you team Woody Marks?
I'm team Woody Marks, definitely. I have been fading Joe Mixon, honestly, since the playoffs last season, because he rushed back from that ankle injury, and I immediately just sold him in Dynasty, got out on him. And then I saw they sign another guy with a history of multi-ligament knee injuries in Nick Chubb. And then they draft the rookie Woody Marks. And, I would probably bet on the guy behind the guys that are either injured or have a track record of injury versus, Algiers in front of the RB1, in my opinion, in all of football, fantasy football, whatever you want to call it, Bijan Robinson. And then I found something very, very intriguing. Like you said, maybe 10 points for a floor, Woody Marks. How about James White, right? You could see like a satellite back James White kind of skill set. It just so happens that Cole Popovich, their run game coordinator, was handpicked by Dante Scarnecchia and was on the Patriots staff in New England when they installed Dion Lewis and James White back in the day. So I really think that it was very, very intentional that they went out and drafted Woody Marks. So there was, in my mind, already an opportunity on the shelf for him. And now we're looking at a little bit more already being put on the plate. So,
and the other thing too is he's not and that offensive line in Houston is not all that great, but you don't necessarily need. I think he is less dependent on a really good offensive line than say Dameon Pierce, than say Nick Chubb. So you bring up James White, light. I think that there's something there. Will Shipley, for God's sake, a 19-yard catch down into the red zone now. Eagles have the ball, 2nd and goal from the Dallas 3 as we are closely watching this. Saquon Barkley already with 22 rushing yards, and Dallas Goedert a pair of catches as well as we bring this to you live at Fantasy Football Night in America. I'm throwing you to the Wolves on this one, Dustin, giving you the tough running back questions. Tank Bigsby, who's part of what seems to be a committee in Jacksonville, or Dylan Sampson, who we don't know what's going to happen with Quinshon Judkins, and it could be just Jerome Ford and Dylan Sampson, at least for the early part of the season. You can only pick one. Is it Bigsby or is it Sampson?
Give me Cartavius Tank Bigsby. Definitely. It's another one of those that give me the devil that you know kind of situations. Yeah. I know what ETN is, in my opinion. Travis Etienne is the least efficient running back in the NFL. So I'm not worried about him. I mean, whenever your coach is having to dance around words to try to describe how they want to use you, that's not a good thing. That's the same thing we're getting with Breece Hall. Oh, he's a weapon. If you believe in your running, because that's the RB1, that's the heartbeat of our team, etc. So with Tank, I mean, you know what the competition is, and you also have the out that ETN or him could both be traded, so he already has at least a 1A, 1B opportunity, and then you have multiple outs for upside as well. So Dylan Sampson, a lot of the people I respect, a lot of my friends in the film, evaluation, they loved him. I wasn't a fan personally. I don't know what it was. I just wasn't a fan of him.
The Eagles have tied it up here with a 4-yard scramble from Jalen Hurts, running it in, and the extra point by Jake Elliott is good. 7-7, 5:55 to go in the first quarter for the NFL's opening night game. It's been fun so far. A lot of fireworks here.
Is the Marvian Overshone playing?
That I could not tell you. I do not know that. I do not have that in front of me.
Okay.
But maybe somebody on YouTube or Twitch, anybody who's watching us can tell us that.
Random thought.
Random thought from Dustin Ware. This is what you're getting tonight, which is fantastic stuff. Get another random thought from you. Chris Rodriguez or the IR Tyjae Spears? You can only pick one. You have to pick one. Who is the one?
I would be going with Chris Rodriguez. He was an interesting. So the cool thing about Dynasty,
let me ask you this: if Tyjae Spears was healthy, would you still pick Rodriguez?
No, okay. Definitely not.
All right,
no.
Keep going. Sorry.
I just kind of have a very black and white. If a guy's already injured before the season, I'm gonna try to not invest into him. So if I can dip dodge that in any way, I'm going to. Rodriguez was interesting to me last season just because he came in and spelled a few times and showed some flashes, and in my mind, it felt a lot like Sean Tucker over in Tampa Bay. This guy with some low draft capital kind of put on the shelf, but when I went into the JCM draft, in our rookie drafts, I grabbed some 4th, 5th round JCM, and that hype started building. I remembered that Chris Rodriguez existed again, So for me, it's more of a market play type thing, a guy you grab to kind of counter the JCM hype. Say he gets a start, gets a touchdown and 80 yards, then you can trade him to the guy that has JCM and get back a piece that you need for your team. Be it redraft or Dynasty.
I think that you're making some good points here. Forgetting about Rodriguez existing. Listen, up until like 2 weeks ago, I forgot all about that too. I knew he existed. I just forgot he was on the Commanders. Okay,
Right.
enough of the late round running backs here. Let's get into some meatier ones with wide receiver. Dustin, would you rather draft Devontae Adams or Garrett Wilson? Teammates at the end of the 2024 season. Adams now on the opposite coast in Los Angeles. Wilson still obviously in New York. I don't even know if you like one of these guys, but if I had to put you to it, and you have to pick one of them, who would it be?
I'd be going with Devontae Adams. I actually wrote an article that you can find on dynastyrewind.com.
I'm doing a stream right now. Sorry. Yeah, that's okay. Sorry, Dustin. Yeah.
No, you're fine. I read an article over the summer, my Dark Horse Wide Receiver 1 series, and I was talking about Devontae Adams. I'm really high on him. If there wasn't so much talent in the top 12, I would try to find a way to jam him in there, but I have him sitting at 14 right now. He is one of only 2 wide receivers over the last 11 years to even finish as the wide receiver 1 twice. The only other guy to do it was Antonio Brown when he went on that three-peat.
Right.
And then, unfortunately, Adams finished as the wide receiver 2 one of those years, or he would be the other one. But, I mean, he just has like a historic consistency. His PFF grades, he was still in the top 75% of the league as far as wide receiver grading, his efficiency, and he plugs right into the LA offense. It was very condensed. Between Cooper Kupp and Puka, they had the most condensed target share of any wide receiver group. And it just so happened Devontae's target share was something like 27% and Kupp's was like 24%. So you can very easily see that it wedges in there. The worst thing though is I ended that article talking about Matthew Stafford's back and just to watch. And this was like 4 months before anybody said a word about it. So I am all in on Devontae Adams. He's actually my most rostered wide receiver in Dynasty. I'm going, I have 7 teams that are in contention this year. I'm trying to go for the big ticket this season. So I think he could easily give you wide receiver 1 numbers. And even if things go south, he's going to be an easy wide receiver 2.
The opposite ends of the spectrum argument here with Tyreek Hill and Teteroa McMillan. Hill has done it, man. He's been an unbelievable receiver, but we were talking with Matt Schauf in the first hour, that I get the willies when I think about the Dolphins offense. Hill coming off some injuries. Obviously, him and his quarterback weren't on the same page, and we had some off the field stuff going on with Tyreek Hill. But nobody could question the level of talent. And then you have Teteroa McMillan, who sky's the limit, right? He's a rookie. He's the mystery box. He is the devil you don't know, to borrow one of your phrases before. So maybe you take Hill because you know what he's capable of rather than the upside of McMillan. You can only draft one. Who's it going to be?
I'll take the upside, the unknown upside with Tet McMillan. He is the number 1 in his offense for sure. Dave Canales we have history with Canales, how he built out and ran the offense in Tampa Bay. And he's basically cloning that out with Teteroa. And a lot of what I had to say with Jayden Higgins previously, the same goes with Tet now. With the injury there, he's going to get kicked into the slot, be able to play that power slot role as well, not always have to get bodied up by defenders. The Tyreek Hill stuff just scares the crap out of me. I've been leaning into the dip and buying Jalen Waddle and stashing Malik Washington everywhere I can. I think I drafted Tyreek 103 in an FFPC Triflex last year, and then I was just fighting for my life the rest of the season.
By the way, the Cowboys have the ball back, 1st and 10 from their own 33, and we'll follow that 5 minutes to go in the first quarter.
CeeDee Lamb.
Did he make a big play? Oh, yeah, he's got 2 catches, 50 yards now. So an 18-yard catch by CeeDee Lamb as he is making moves tonight.
He should have caught that first touchdown. He was down at the 1-inch line.
Oh, okay, and that's how Javonte Williams scored.
Yeah.
You could see the game behind me, and I'm trying to follow it on the Gamecast here, and I'm doing a lousy job of it. But that's okay, because you're educating me on what I should be doing with drafts the rest of the weekend. Travis Hunter, the dual threat, or Jerry Jeudy, a guy who, man, I don't know if anybody was hotter than that guy at the end of last season as far as wide receivers go. They're basically going back-to-back right now in FFPC Big Gorilla drafts. Hunter or Jeudy for you this year, Dustin?
So in my notes, I wrote, this one is hard.
It is. It is.
It really is.
I'm telling you, if you are drafting in the FFPC main event this weekend here in Las Vegas, Nevada, or if you are at the comfort of your own home and you're staring right into that computer screen and you know you need a receiver and you know it's going to be either Travis Hunter or Jerry Jeudy, you have to make that call. This is hard. What kind of a call are you making now?
I'm going to take Jerry Jeudy. When you're at that point in a draft, depending on your roster build, I'm not sure if I want to risk it. That could be $1 million move. We've talked about this when I was drafting my draft, actually. Mm-hmm. I was sitting there just chewing my fingernails trying to decide if I wanted to take Hunter or not. But Jeudy, he had a proven end of the season breakout, and we have evidence with Joe Flacco, with what he did with Amari Cooper there, that he can feed him the same way that Jameis did. It's just going to be a matter of who's going to step up and be that number 2 option. I hope it's Harold Fannin. I'm not convinced, though, that Tillman is really going to be a thing. We'll see. But Jerry Jeudy just seems to have a track where he's pretty much a locked-in wide receiver 2, and then he could give you those week-winning wide receiver 1 weeks at any time.
CeeDee Lamb with another catch. He is up to 3 catches for 76 yards. Cowboys have it 1st and 10 from the Philadelphia 33, 2:13 to go in the first quarter. If you want to watch over my shoulder, certainly, viewers, go ahead and do that as the game is going on there as well.
I should have put my TV up over here.
That would have been good. By the way, is that a Najee Harris jersey behind you, Dustin?
You know it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. All right.
And I got a TJ Watt color rush on here.
Hail on Wisconsin. TJ Watt, baby. Love it. Josh Downs or Chris Godwin? 2 guys that are dealing with injuries. I think Downs is back, if I remember correctly, and he gets Daniel Jones throwing to him. Chris Godwin, better news on him. It doesn't sound like he's going to be out as long as we thought, but he's probably going to be missing the start of the season, I think. He gets Mayfield throwing to him. These guys are going very, very close to each other. Do you have an inkling here on which we are leaning between? Who would you rather draft, Josh Downs or Chris Godwin, Dustin?
I would go with Josh Downs. I'm a noted Josh Downs truther. As hard as it was to kind of choke through last year.
Right.
Danny Jones was – it's so tough to say this, but Daniel Jones is the upside floor for this offense, Eric. But it's true,
really is.
Though.
He is.
They need somebody that can operate efficiently over the middle, and now that they have Tyler Warren as well – they're going to be forced to build the game over the middle. So I could see Downs getting out there a lot more than he had been. I know we make a lot about slot percentage and snap rates and stuff, but it's pretty rare for a guy to get over 70, 80% of snaps anyways. But with Daniel Jones in there, you're not wasting, every 1 in every 3 dropbacks isn't a throw, it's a rush. If it's designed to throw the ball, he'll be able to at least execute the play. Chris Godwin, man, I was so in on Chris Godwin. Last year, Rashee Rice and Chris Godwin were just killing it on my teams. I thought I was going to kick back and just watch fantasy football all year.
I was the same way. I Scott Barrett from Fantasy Points. How awesome. Yeah. 2 of the guys that he pumped up more than anybody in the industry, Godwin and Rice, and they were hitting. until they weren't, but that's fantasy football. That you got to have your reserves in back to make sure that you can still carry on that great start that those players gave you to carry on to championships. Go ahead.
No, I just don't think Godwin's injury got the credit for what it actually was, because when you say dislocated ankle, people think dislocated finger, something like that. But he literally had a fracture and a tear in every ligament in his leg, So
I'll be honest with you. I thought it was super serious, and then they gave him that big extension, and then I was like, okay, well, you're not going to give him a big extension unless you believe in him. And then they drafted Buka, and then I didn't know what the hell to think.
I think Tampa Bay is one of the last good guy franchises left. They just pay their guys and they keep them around. You know what I mean?
Question on YouTube and Jelly of the Month. I apologize. I've been ignoring you. So we mentioned this earlier with the Christian McCaffrey calf injury where he's listed as limited. He has the opportunity to pick up Brian Robinson in a half PPR format, but because the league has position limits, he has to drop either Ollie Gordon or Braylon Allen in order to pick up Robinson. Dustin, would you make that move? And if you are making that move, would you rather cut Ollie Gordon? Would you rather cut Braylon Allen?
I would be holding Ollie Gordon and Braylon Allen. There's a possibility if Brian Robinson's really the two-back that they're just going to bring in Garendo and he's going to keep the same role that he had. So I would rather keep the upside with Gordon and Allen because, Allen already has, his own snap share and everything accounted for, but both of them could go absolutely nuclear. They have the size and the skill set to score touchdowns and just chew up yardage. So
and it makes sense, right? We don't know exactly, and here's the other thing too. If Robinson was already out there and McCaffrey ends up getting a full practice tomorrow, you're going to feel bad about dropping those players too. Might not be the right decision not to drop them, but based on what we know now, I think you make a well-reasoned argument for keeping Robinson on the waiver wire and holding on to the players that you have. Final one of the night. Drafting these players. Jalen Coker, who's on IR, or Malik Washington, who's actually gone up a little bit based on people not liking Tyreek Hill or, what have you. But this is another player that's been rising a little bit to the point where he's going at the same spot that Coker has fallen to now that he's on IR. You can only have one. Who's it going to be?
This is a tough one. I mean, before Coker was injured, it would be him very easily for me. He was another one of my end of roster stashes from last year. But in a vacuum right now with the circumstances, it seems like Malik Washington, he is the wide receiver 3 already. Looks like Waller's injured again with a hip, so he's not going to be out there.
He did not practice again today. So, it's not looking good for Waller.
And then, Tyreek, he's a veteran, but he admitted to not, just now figuring out the offense recently. I read a story, Malik Washington and Tua Tagovailoa have been fishing together. And apparently Malik Washington knows the playbook. He's a great blocker. So that's one where, I would take Malik because I think the production is going to be there in the beginning of the season. But if you can hold tough, I mean, Jalen Coker doesn't have a bye until week 14. So you could conceivably hold him, get him onto your team, and he'll be the most healthy wide receiver coming in while you have other guys coming out of your lineup injured.
Fishing together. Tagovailoa and Washington. Dustin, you may not be the mayor of Narrative Street. That title belongs to Sigmund Bloom, but you obviously are sitting on the town council there. You have to be at this point.
I'm the guy selling the burnt CDs out of his trunk.
Right, exactly. Yes, yeah, for sure. And not only are you doing that, but you're also churning out a ton of great content for DynastyRewind.com, at Dynasty Rewind on X as well. Can you, for anybody who's looking to consume more of the stuff that you're producing for Dynasty Rewind, where's the best place to go to find that?
So we're everywhere you can find us, on social media, Dynasty Rewind, YouTube, same thing, Dynasty Rewind. We did launch the website over the summer, kind of a soft launch. We have like 4 or 5 evergreen articles up there. But that's nice because that's kind of the hub. You're going to get all the latest articles, all the latest videos. We have some bios about us so you can figure out like who are these people that are trying to, give us advice about fantasy football. We have the Patreon, everything like that. I was really behind the scenes, pumping out a lot of production, getting a lot of things lined up. And now that it is the start of the season, even though you said, it's Dynasty, it's redraft, for me, I come from the redraft side of things. I come from those home leagues where you're throwing 250 on the table. So like start sits, roster building. I'm going to be doing live streams just all over the place, sleeper Sundays, guys like Malik Washington, Jalen Coker, the guys that you need to stash so that you have them on your team next year and you can sell them to somebody else.
That's the plan.
So yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
no, I love it. I love it. At all22_FF, at Dynasty Rewind on X, dynastyrewind.com. Dustin, so glad to have you aboard tonight. We will continue to follow you on X. Thanks so much for hopping aboard during the kickoff of the NFL season, which, by the way, I'm going to let you enjoy this game because we're witnessing greatness in Javonte Williams, who has just plunged in for his second touchdown of the night, 14-7 Dallas, 34 yards, 2 touchdowns for Javonte Williams. We might be looking at a 4-touchdown game. And
guess who started him in the Big Gorilla?
Congratulations, my friend. This is why we have analysts like this on. Congratulations on that. We will see what happens with Javonte Williams in drafts tomorrow as well. Remember, if you're still looking to play in the FFPC, Big Gorilla is still open, 700 teams left. MyFFPC.com, $1 million grand prize. You can compete against guys like Dustin Royer, a lot of analysts, a lot of players behind me who are at the FFPC watch party, which I'm going to resign myself to here shortly. Want to remind everybody, Dynasty startups are also available at myffpc.com as well. Empire Dynasty startups, all live drafts going throughout Saturday. And Dustin, I know you will be churning out a lot of great content on Dynasty advice over the course of the season and off season. Thanks for being a part of the show tonight, man.
Bless, man.
I want to thank Dustin Royer. I want to thank Matt Schauf, our producer, Matt Deutsch. We will be back at 7 p.m. Eastern Time next Thursday night with 4 for 4 and Pro Football Focuses. Justin Edwards, he will co-host with me for the next for those 2 hours next Thursday as we're into the actual season itself. We're talking starts, sits, waiver bids, drops, everything like that. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. This has been FFPC Insider Access on the Better Sports Network. Have a great season. Talk with you next week.